Hi guys, my name's Dr. Sarah Tonks. I'm a cosmetic physician. I also have this lovely YouTube channel that you can see right here in front of you. We release content on here twice a week and I'm talking about skincare and things to do with aesthetic procedures like injectables, devices, that kind of thing. So if that sort of thing floats your boat, it's your sandwich, etc., then don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with this fantastic content. Otherwise, you will sorely miss out. Today, I'm talking about botulinum toxins and different types of botulinum toxin. Before I start, it's probably worthwhile me saying that here in the UK, we're not allowed to advertise Botox or Dysport or anything like that because it's classified as a drug. So let me say, before the video even starts, to everyone out there, this is not an advertisement. I'm not advertising Botox. In fact, don't come to me for your Botox. Definitely do not come to me for your Botox. I don't like doing it. It's a bit boring. Fillers, great, but don't come to me for the Botox. So there we are. It's not an advertisement. I'm just trying to educate people, okay? So let's go on and talk about it. Of course, you know, I love doing it as part of an overall treatment plan, but it's not the be all and end all. Do you know what I mean? Botox for cosmetic use was first published about back in the 90s when Carruthers and Carruthers discovered that you could use it to reduce frown lines. Basically, that's how it all started. This whole industry came from that, and it really answered a call, a gap in the market, if you like, because before that, all there was plastic surgery or collagen injections. Collagen injections were a bit of a pain because they really didn't last very long at all, maybe about 3 months, and you had to have a skin test beforehand. So there was really space for something like this to sneak on in there and expand. Around the same time that Allergan, who are the manufacturers of Botox, were putting together their initial trials, Galderma, who were responsible for Dysport, were doing the same thing. But it just so happens that Allergan got there first, and that's why we now say that, you know, you're going to go and get your Botox done rather than you're going to go and get your Dysport done, which I think is quite interesting. It's kind of like that whole Dyson, Hoover, Vax thing with vacuum cleaners. At the moment, there are 7 known different types of botulinum toxin from A through to G, and they all have slightly different properties behind them. So the ones that we use for cosmetic purposes are botulinum toxin type A. However, if a person is immune to botulinum toxin type A, which is like super unlikely, and actually I know about one person, like literally one person, then maybe you would use botulinum toxin type B, but it doesn't last as long and it's apparently quite painful to inject. I never tried it. Amongst the botulinum toxin type A's, we in the UK have got 3 different types that we use. So we've got onabotulinum toxin, incobotulinum toxin, and abobotulinum toxin, otherwise known as Botox, Azelur, and Botox. They always have different names as well, which is like a little bit confusing. So Botox, for example, is also known as Vistabel, and then Azelur is also known as Dysport, and Botox is also known as Xeomin. So sorry if there's some like massive confusion there. There are other toxins available in other countries, which I will come onto in one momento. And actually, that's what I'm going to mainly talk about today. So do you guys know that there are different units for the different types of toxin? You might have seen that, especially those of you who are watching from the States, where you tend to price everything by the unit. So, for example, with the Azelur/Dysport, you have to use more of their Spaywood units in order to get a similar result as you would do with the Botox or with the Botox, for example. So, like, just for the sake of argument, if you're treating a glabella area here, maybe you would, in each injection point, maybe you'd use 10 Spearwood units of Dysport, and maybe you would use, say, 4 of the Allergan units for Botox. They do say that the Botox units are the same as the Botox units. It's not really something that I use particularly myself. I have used it a few times. I don't know, what can I say, it's just not for me. Amongst my colleagues, I do hear that they need to maybe put a few extra units in of the Botox. But there's definitely not something that I'm aware of in the literature about that right now. The interesting thing that I wanted to talk to you about was the different types of Botox that are available in different countries. And of course, when I say Botox, I'm talking about botulinum toxin. I do the same thing, you know, like when I'm talking about, you know, vacuuming the apartment, I always use the word Dyson. So even though we have a G-Tech, actually, don't know why. So let me just go through, for all you cosmetic fanciers out there, some different types of toxin that might not be available in the country where you are right now, just for, you know, interest. So I'm reading these off because my pronunciation is probably way off and I can never remember actually what you call them. So first off, we've got Neuro Knox from Botox in South Korea. Apparently it's very well used in South Korea and Asia. Apparently they're making moves to try and introduce this particular toxin to China, which obviously would be very lucrative for them if they manage to crack the Chinese market. We've also got CBTXA, also known as Lantox, from Lanzhou Institute of Biological Products in China. Catchy, right? If you've seen one of the previous videos, you'll remember this is the one that contains the bovine instead of the human serum albumin. It's also marketed as Prosigny in Brazil, but not available in the USA. Then we've got Myoblock. Remember I was saying that this is the botulinum toxin type B. It's also called Neuroblock. It's from Solstice Neurosciences. Approved in USA, Canada and Europe for treatment of cervical dystonia. This is kind of interesting. So the different toxins that we used have been licensed for different areas at different times. So it all kicked off when Allergan managed to get their Botox licensed, like officially licensed for use in the glabella area, which is the frown line here. And then at that time, back in 2006, all the other indications, like using it in the forehead, for example, we use what we call off-label. It doesn't mean you can't do it, it just means that it's not licensed for use in that area. So your doctor or whoever it is who's injecting you has to make the clinical decision to use that off-label. And then after that came it being licensed for use around the crow's feet, and then the forehead was last. That was only this year in the UK, actually, 2018. Unbelievable. Okay, let's talk about the future releases of new Botoxes or toxins, whatever you want to call it. There is a company called Evolus Inks who are bringing out one called DWP 450 sometime next year. It apparently didn't do too well in some recent FDA trials. However, the manufacturers say that these things are not insurmountable. So look out for that next year. Also in the running, we've got Revance's Daxi Botulinum Toxin A, which they are releasing as either an injection or a topical gel, which is kind of exciting, for the crow's feet area. There's also a bit of talk about different types of botulinum toxin as well, E and F. So type E has got shorter onset. So with normal toxin, you're talking like maybe 5 to 14 days for maximum effect, very, very roughly. But you can imagine, you know, somebody's getting married, or I don't know, they've got a party or something coming up and they want to have a result like super quickly. Then you can kind of see a place for something which is a bit more fast acting. Or maybe you could just mix the two together. I don't know, hey, you know, I'm just making stuff up now, but you know, potentially that could be where we're going with this. You mix them together and then it works more quickly, and then the type A takes over and makes it last longer. Just throwing stuff out there. The last thing that I just wanted to touch on was the things that people mix up their Botox with. So I like bacteriostatic saline because it's less painful, but here's a list of things that you can use. So bacteriostatic saline is otherwise known as preserved saline. It contains a very tiny amount of benzyl alcohol, and that's the thing which is responsible for it being not painful at all once it's been injected. If you're using a normal saline, it can sting quite a bit afterwards. I have heard some people say that they use either lignocaine or bupivacaine to reconstitute their toxin. There have been some studies done on this. It showed that the toxin still keeps the original efficacy. However, there have been allergies reported when using the lignocaine. And actually, if you're using the bacteriostatic saline, I guess you don't really need to use the lignocaine because it doesn't hurt at all if you use the bacteriostatic saline. There are some countries in which, though, it's kind of difficult to get hold of that. I have heard people say instead that they will maybe use a Hartmann solution as an alternative. Okay guys, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the purely educational content of this video. Don't forget to come back next week where we're talking about more of the same exciting stuff. In the meantime, if you've got any questions or if you'd like to make any comment about what I've said, whether you agree or disagree with it, don't let me know. Do not let me know. Whatever you do, I don't care. Okay guys, so that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the purely educational content of this video. If you have any questions or if there's anything that you want to get off your chest, let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you again later.
Let's just do what you want to. Please don't be polite, cause I like your attitude. Let's forget about a curfew, cause all that is stuck in my head. It's me and you, pulse speed and my heart is racing, but I'm not sure I wanna face it, cause it